Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone. It is the Monday, March 2nd, 2026 episode of The Marco Dre Show. Thank you for tuning in to hear today's groundbreaking news right here in America and across the board, where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Let's begin the best of radio, informative, uncensored, unapologetic, and ready to go. Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump has decided, instead of continuing talks that were supposed to resume today, and for the peace that he wished for in his New Year's resolution, that he will now become a war president by his own making, enforcing Operation Epic Fury, and now quite possibly the start of World War III. So obviously by now you all know that we bombed Iran early on Saturday morning in an unprovoked attack, and killing the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Now I mentioned to you that this attack could possibly happen as soon as this past weekend. I said it could have happened the next weekend or a month from now. And unfortunately, I did turn out to be correct in that the negotiations have now failed. Deep down, I was hoping that someone in this administration, a J.D. Vance perhaps, whose political career is now over after this tenure in my estimation, a Tulsi Gabbard perhaps, a General Kane, someone realistic in the Joint Chiefs, would have talked to President Trump out of this war. But they all seem to be on the same page. That's the main issue here. Everyone seems to be on board that this war of aggression that has really no provocation for were to take place. But this goes to show you that the Wolfowitz doctrine of global hegemony in this case, obviously for Benjamin Netanyahu, is really what this venture is all about. This is what's going on right now, right in front of our eyes. We are seeing all of this take place. Global hegemony. This is what the United States wants. They do not want peace. And it goes to show you, Netanyahu has been fomenting these wars inside the Middle East for the better part of the last 30 years. And right now he feels that this is his moment, or he can kiss his dream of greater Israel goodbye. This mass expansion of Israel's borders, this is what he wants. And he feels right now, this is the time to do it. This is the green light they've been waiting for. All these years has come to this point. And by the way, if you don't believe me of the Wolfowitz doctrine, I always come with receipts, of course. This was General Wesley Clark. This is back in 2007. And he was explaining this conversation he had with someone inside the Bush administration. Let's take a listen.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who had used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, No. He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
7 countries in 5 years. Let's go through the list, shall we? Iraq, we had a war. We have regime change. Syria, regime change now that Bashar al-Assad is out of power. Now they have one of the heads of the Al-Qaeda now running the show, named Ahmed al-Sharaa. This is an Al-Qaeda terrorist wanted by the United States government for killing Americans, and he's leading the country right now. No issues with that, though, of course. Lebanon, regime change. Libya, regime change. Rest in peace, Gaddafi. Should have never given up your nuclear weapons. Somalia, we bomb them endlessly, and to this day, we do that still. But back in 2006, we used Ethiopia to topple their Islamic courts union and installed a proxy regime in place afterwards. Sudan, regime changes, years of U.S. sanctions, weakening the al-Bashir government, and after much civil war, he gets toppled. We come in, we assist the transitional government, and of course, we get regime change there. Sounds like the plan's working, doesn't it? And who is last on the list, ladies and gentlemen, that hasn't been properly torn apart or experienced regime change by the United States yet? And has not yet had a Rothschild Federal Reserve Bank installed? Yep, that would be Iran, the last country on the list. Now, it didn't take 5 years. It took a little bit longer. But you've got to understand how these people operate. It's all in certain increments. It takes place over time. In this case, it takes a little bit longer. Now, will they get regime change? I don't think so. But this is their plan. This is their moment to achieve that. This is what they would like. They need to weak Iran for Israel, so there's no opposition in the region. How do they get that? I mean, this just goes to show you that this attack was not well thought out, and it did not serve its purpose. What Netanyahu and Trump believed was that by taking out the Ayatollah, create a mass civil war, would bring people into the streets, kind of like what we saw orchestrated by Mossad, MI6, our CIA, in these riots earlier this year, and that these same factions would topple the remaining government, right? We've seen it before. We saw it happen to Saddam. We install the Pahlavi puppet government, right? And Israel has no opposition inside the region. And they can take now what they want. They can take various borders. It's okay with them. Doesn't matter. This is how these people operate. We've got to be very much aware of all this. This is why I've been telling you all this for a long time now. I said because if the Ayatollah falls, this is what they would like to see. They believe that so does the support for all these proxies in the region. And that's probably what it comes down to. Get the Ayatollah out, put in Pahlavi, the support, particularly for Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas to some extent, the Houthis in Yemen, all that goes away. All that goes away. And they take Gaza, they take the West Bank, they can take Jordan, they can take parts of Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, possibly Turkey now. That's what they're eyeing next, if you can imagine that. It's all part of a strategic plan. But the problem is that this did not happen. Yes, we killed an 86, almost 87-year-old frail man, half crippled, who likely had cancer or some other illness, debilitating illness, if you will, while sitting at home with his granddaughter, his son, his daughter-in-law with him. And they were all killed. Now, according to Scott Ritter, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was informed of this incoming missile attack, and he was told, let us take you to a bunker. Let us take you to a basement, so you're not just out in the open inside your home, which, of course, they will target. It's well-known public information. And he said, allegedly, and this is just what I've been hearing, when you can take 90 million Iranians out of harm's way, when you can take 90 million Iranians to a basement, then you could take me. Now, say what you want about Muslims or the Iranian governments or whether or not you like it or not now. Khamenei died as a highly regarded and revered figure inside the Shia Muslim faith and is now a martyr to millions of Shia Islamists. This is what it comes down to. These people now revere him in such a way because he died for this cause. Now, you can decide what you want to think about that cause. That's up to you. That's your own opinion. But do you think Netanyahu would say that if he was given that sort of information, that yes, your house is going to be bombed right now, let us get you out of the way? Do you think he would just say, let me sit here and stay here? By the way, we have information now that his plane is said to have landed in Berlin on Saturday evening, but there's no confirmation that he was on it. But he flew, actually, during the 12-day war somewhere else, so nothing really would shock me if that were true. And his wife was photographed in the United States with his son. Yeah, in Miami. Hey, have some fun in Miami, right? Yep. All the Israeli people are fearful in the streets, by the way. I mean, they're in their own type of bunkers because they don't know what's going to happen. And the head of government is somewhere else, possibly. Amazing. I mean, we haven't seen any footage of him really since these attacks started, too, by the way. But to all these, the know-it-alls online who study nothing but say everything, that Iran isn't a Muslim country, I say, oh no? 99.4% of Iran is Muslim, folks, with just over 90% being Shia Muslims in a country of 93 million people. I think that qualifies as a Muslim country today, don't you? I think so. Anyone that searches online can see the massive number of people in the streets in Tehran right now, or at least over the weekend, in Iraq, lamenting the Ayatollah's death. There is no voice of reason in the Trump White House right now. There was no reason for any of this to happen, by the way. All he has is yes men and yes women around him. Anything Trump does is just fine with them. There's no conversation. It's just done. It's like they forgot he promised no new wars. But the Trump administration seems to have now failed us. And this campaign promise of no new wars is nothing short of a big lie, as the war machine keeps on trucking, if you will. I had to wake up Saturday morning to this. Take a listen to clip 2 right now. This is Donald Trump announcing that we are now going to war with Iran.
The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran.
I don't understand this. I really don't. Sending your kids to a war that's unprovoked, where there is zero risk of any type of nuclear threat? Now he's come out and saying, this is what I'm seeing over the headlines as of earlier, just maybe like 10, 15 minutes ago, before the show started. Trump said we got to get rid of the ballistic missiles and the nuclear weapons. Well, first of all, they don't have nuclear weapons. That's number one. Number two, no ballistic missile program? So now you're going to dictate what they could use for their own defense? Especially after we attacked them last June? What kind of nonsense is this? This is stupidity. Now, I keep hearing from many pundits, by the way, influencers alike, that Iran is now free, apparently. Where do these idiots get this information from? But when you look at it, 2.5 days into this, Iran is still getting hit. Excuse me, Iran is still hitting, I should say, all of our military bases all throughout the Middle East. And none, by the way, at the end of this war will be operable by the United States. And the cost to rebuild will cost us well over, I think, $100 billion. Nice, huh? We're all going to be able to chip in for that, as your taxes will probably go up. You know what I found the most interesting so far in this war? We're sold this line that the nuclear weapons have this danger coming to Israel, the United States, the West. We keep hearing things like this. But they have no nuclear weapons. That's the problem. Anytime they've been assessed, anytime it's been verified, it's all come up that they don't have nuclear weapons. In any IAEA reports, it's shown that they don't have any nuclear weapons. They're holding to their word. And now somehow they have nuclear weapons after this is despite the White House's own website. It's clearly up. You can go look at it right now, telling us that the nuclear program was obliterated. That's what it says. But then you got Marco Rubio coming out saying that Iran is going to strike Israel. And now we need to do a preemptive strike? These missiles will reach the United States. First of all, they don't have intercontinental ballistic missiles. They can't reach the United States, folks. They have nothing that can hit the continental United States. It's an unbelievable lie. Yes, they can hit Israel. That's what Rubio's problem is. But they sell the American people these lies that we have to do a preemptive attack before an attack on Israel will happen, which never occurred, by the way, and was never in any sort of plan to happen. But here's the problem there. Let's think about this. What did they hit right off the bat over this weekend? The first 6 missiles launched to kick off this war didn't hit any nuclear sites or any Iranian military bases or launch sites or any weapons piles of any sorts. What did they hit? They hit Ali Khamenei's residency. Then Iran, of course, responds, firing back right away because they were ready for this and they were anticipating it. And now they're striking all of our military bases in the region. It's no good. They're hitting Tel Aviv, which again is a disaster. You're seeing Israelis just fleeing in the streets. They don't know what to do. And yes, of course, it's fine, President Trump says. Hey, we might have casualties. If your sons go and die in this unprovoked war, that's completely unconstitutional. And despite the fact that zero, nada, zilch, not one iota of evidence from any organization that's reputable shows that Iran has nuclear weapons. And I just want to remind my listeners, the JCPOA was scrapped by President Trump. A binding agreement holding them accountable to not build any type of nuclear weapon. But he didn't replace it with anything. And I asked myself, why not? So during the entirety of the Biden administration, they could have built a nuclear weapon. Joe Biden certainly wasn't going to stop them. And all of a sudden, there's this intense risk of nuclear weapons. Even though last June they were going to come meet with us to pledge the exact same thing. They're not going to build nuclear weapons. They won't enrich past a certain percentage. We can come in and verify their nuclear sites. We can have American weapons inspectors come in and check everything. They were going to give us everything. But here's the problem. It's not about the nuclear weapons because they don't have them. That's not President Trump's concern or Prime Minister Netanyahu's concern. They want regime change, but they can't sell that to the American people. How are they going to sell that to the American people? We've got to take out the Ayatollah because we don't really know why. We can't tell you why. It's like Obamacare. We've got to pass the bill before you understand what's inside the bill. There we go. That's Nancy Pelosi logic, right? That's what these dunces, they'll sell you to. Unbelievable. It really is. But, we surreptitiously bombed him last June, and we just did it right again. And again, forget that the Ayatollah Khamenei, right? This is the man who issued 2 fatwas. These are religious edicts. Beginning back in 2003, they said they would abandon their nuclear program, working towards the development of a nuclear weapon because it's against their religion. So remind me, why is this war necessary? How is it justifiable? How is it even constitutional? It's none of these. President Trump didn't even ask, or make any attempt to even ask Congress to go to war with Iran. He didn't even invoke the War Powers Act because there is no threat to initiate an attack. That's the problem. That's what that whole act gives the president, the ability to act without going to Congress first. And again, President Trump has brazenly said to people like the New York Times reporters that he doesn't need international law, which is the supreme law of the land, because all treaties are ratified via the U.S. Senate. They become the law of the land. We follow those laws. We obey those laws. We believe in those laws. And he seems to, I guess, I don't know how, but he seems to not even believe in that. It's like he's above that somehow. Which, again, is a stark difference from him in his first term, folks. I got to be honest with you. Very, very different from his first term. And again, it's complete lawlessness. And I say this to you as a constitutional conservative. Where the hell is Congress allowing all of these wars to take place, all these bombings, this war of choice to happen, and not putting a stop to this rogue behavior? Where the hell's Mike Johnson? Where's Majority Leader Thune? What are they doing? These are war crimes. This isn't peace through strength. We acted like we were in good faith with these talks with Iran, and then we attacked them unprovoked. Whether you like it or not, folks, whether you like President Trump, hate him, I don't care. I voted for him 3 times. I believe he wanted peace. America first, to restore the economy, to bring back belief in the system, to expand our presence in the world, that we are the greatest nation on earth, but that we follow the law. That we respect our allies, that we cooperate with treaties, that we will bolster up our military should we ever need to go to war, God forbid. I would have never believed we would have seen actions like this at any point. Anyone being honest with you, by the way, will tell you this is not the work of a man following the Constitution. Same with Pete Hegseth and anyone else carrying out these illegal orders, by the way. But President Trump just lost, ladies and gentlemen, the Republicans any chance of winning in the midterms. And he will more than likely remain a lame duck for the remainder of his term once the Democrats take back the House and likely get impeached again, and rightfully so, to be honest with you. I mean, I hate to say that to you, but that's the truth. He is breaking the law right now. What's right is right and what's wrong is wrong, and this is wrong, and I always tell you the truth. Not what you want to hear. This is the truth. What he did was a war crime. In the middle of negotiations, you bomb the country without any type of provocation whatsoever? That's a war crime, folks. Go look it up. I don't know what else to tell you. But we don't have a, constitutional republic anymore, and we haven't for quite some time now, so it all becomes political theater at some point. Anyways, that's just the way our government works right now, which again is very sad. So if we illegally extract a world leader and his wife in the middle of the night, for example, in Venezuela, under some ridiculous, bogus charges, in the process we kill 100 people, 50 of whom were sleeping in the middle of the night, the process is fine. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Blowing up fishing boats in the Caribbean because, well, the news tells us they're alleged drug boats. So we can do whatever the hell we want, even if they're 1,500 miles away from us. Again, boats with zero evidence of any type of drugs on them. Any intel of whom they are, or if they're even coming to the United States, so what? And you say, come on, Gerace. You hate drugs, right? We don't want drugs coming to the United States. I say, okay, then we secure our border. We secure our seas and our ports. But their stance is we don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt anybody. That's what he said to them. You don't need international law, then you are completely lawless. And now we've launched an unprovoked war against Iran. We blew up an elementary school, or at least Israel did, but they use our weapons anyways, and we're in this war with them. And we kill 165 girls ages 6 to 12. Blow up a women's gym, killing 20 women. No biggie. Hey, it's an accident. Hey, we didn't mean to do that. Don't judge us on this one, mishap alone. Now, again, if you didn't mean to blow it up, that means your intel is way off, folks, just so we're understanding all this. And by the way, notice that the Iranians have yet to bomb any type of civilians. At least not yet. Yet all I see online, people online, blowing up the, killing of innocents, it's all right. Now, this was another country, and they hit an American elementary school and killed school children, young children, preteens. I would hope everyone would be appalled by this, outraged, speak out against this type of behavior. But when it's another country, when it's a country you're told to just simply all-out hate, do you honestly believe that 93 million Iranians, all of them are pure evil? Who believes this nonsense? But the news media can spin that on you. That's what they do. Iran's this evil country, it's a dictatorship. They do this, they do that. So it's okay, though, if we blow up a elementary school building. It was a mistake, by the way, because we said it was a mistake. And no one's held accountable. I even saw some influencers over the weekend championing and cheering these illegal acts behind the guise of them being free thinkers. Right? They put them there by a free thinker, conservative and Christian, commonsensical free thinker, patriot, America. this Bible verse, and you're sitting there, okay, this person's probably saying they probably, do research, they're reasonable, they're logical, all whom repeat the same bullcrap talking points. Question nothing. Spew up the same nonsense over and over again. The same damn talking points. And they sell to you as if they thought of it themselves. Right? Show up to this page. It's commonsensical. I'm a conservative. I'm a woman of God. I'm a man of God. This is what they sell you. And then you're championing an unprovoked war against people in a foreign country? I don't think that's very godly. I don't think that's very Christ-like. Do you, folks? Whether you're religious or not, I don't think it is. When someone shows you they cannot think for themselves, it's time to abandon these liars and these grifters. That's all they are, by the way. That's all they are. They're liars, they're grifters. They should be ashamed of themselves for lying to you. But that's who they are. Unbelievable. By the way, you call them on this, they never respond to you, too. That's how brilliant they are. Anytime they get challenged, the mind shuts right off, right? They deflect mostly. They can't call it what it is because they know it's a bunch of nonsense. They know they're grifters. They want to get clickbait and all that other nonsense. Ignore these people. Stop following them. Think for yourself. Question everything. I tell you every time you listen to my show. Don't just take my word for it. Question it. I leave my articles in the notes for every podcast. I tell you exactly where I'm getting my information from. If I'm quoting someone, I'll quote exactly who's telling us this. I'll say allegedly if I don't know for facts. But this is the information I'm getting from people that know what's going on, folks. And by the way, I just want to take this opportunity before I forget to applaud the newly assembled Board of Peace members, by the way. President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, Marco Rubio, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner. Great job, fellas, by the way, on those negotiations. Just brilliant work, fellas. I got to tell you, all those negotiations, you couldn't even come up with a deal for a country that was going to give you everything. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And that just shows you that negotiations were not the thing they wanted. They want regime change. And I said to you, and by the way, Trump is coming out right now. This is the funniest part about this. They better make a deal. No one's going to buy it, anything you agree to. You are proven to be a liar. No one's going to buy anything you say right now. Even the Iranians knew this. But they waited. They said, listen, if you attack us, this is what we'll do. And they're holding pretty firm to their word right now. I had to say. I really have to say. Now, I don't want this. I don't want any innocent people to die. I don't want any of our troops to die. I think this is completely senseless, nonsensical to an extreme, yet we're doing this. People are in harm's way in all these countries, by the way. Innocent Israelis, innocent people in these Gulf Arab states, innocent people in Iran, innocent people all over the place. This doesn't have to happen. This did not have to happen. That's the saddest part about all this. This did not have to happen. And we elected President Trump because we thought he was the peace candidate. What peace has he created? Let me ask you this. None. That's the short answer. None, to be succinct. It's unbelievable. A board of peace, and all these people are pushing for war. Can't make a deal to save their lives. Unbelievable. Then you got Tony Blair on it, of all people in the UK. One of the people that helped set up the Middle East for failure, by the way, who helped push the Iraq war. And by the way, you have several, mainly leaders from the Gulf Arab states, other parts of Europe. I believe some people, generals from Egypt and what have you, in all that region. Hell of a job, fellas, by the way. Not even in commission for barely a month, and already the Middle East is on fire. And hiding behind peace, while allowing Israel, of course, to run roughshod right now. Continuing on, by the way, we never see any of these reports anymore. And if we do, it's very seldom. The roughshod going over Palestinians in Gaza, by the way, allegedly during a ceasefire that really never occurred, along with the chaos we're seeing inside the West Bank. All illegal, too, by the way, under UN Charter Article 242. Classic smoke and mirrors tactic. We call for a ceasefire. People stop paying attention because they believe the conflict has stopped. And then you get Prime Minister Netanyahu, gets everything he wants. He continues his war. It's just been quieted up a little bit, and President Trump hands it right to him, and no one says a damn thing about it. Where is the journalism in America? That's what I want to ask you. 20 to 30 Palestinians killed every single day. And not a damn thing is said about it. That's why we have over 75,000 dead Palestinians right now. The vast majority of whom had nothing to do with October 7th, what took place that day. And that number grows by the day. And this is just the guy who's committing these war crimes. You're going to put him on the board of peace for this territory? And then who starts a war with another country in the region because he wants control over everything. These people are greedy, they are selfish, they are liars, and they should not be trusted ever. If there was anyone who lied to us, though, to get us into these wars, these regime changes that I mentioned to you earlier from General Wesley Clark inside the Middle East, it's Benjamin Netanyahu. Going all the way back, 30 years of this nonsense. But it makes for a good chagrin, doesn't it, folks? You know, I'm old enough to remember when President Trump ran as a peace candidate back in 2024. Don't you remember that? And he said, no new wars. I remember like it was yesterday. Take a listen to clip 3. Let's take a listen to this. I've got to play this for you. Can almost barely believe this. But this is what he ran on. And by the way, this is about a minute clip of this. This is exactly what he ran on. We all said this was America first. This was MAGA. This is the Republican stance on this. This is what we want. And yet somehow everyone does a 180 on this today. Championing this illegal war of aggression. Take a listen.
Our opponents join with warmongers and neocons to wage endless wars, these wars that never end. Together we're fighting to secure our borders, end the endless foreign wars, and defend the working people of America. But the Muslim and Arab voters in Michigan and across the country want a stop to the endless wars and a return to peace in the Middle East. That's all they want. Speaking of World War III, I'll keep you out of World War III. What would happen if we had a war? We won't, with me, but you will have World War III, I believe, without me, but we won't have. I will be sure that World War III will not happen. I'm the only one can say it won't happen. But I stand here today, and I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
Amazing. I mean, that last clip was from 2011, I believe, and he's talking about Obama. So are we to believe now that he is starting World War III? That he can't negotiate, which is why he's starting this war with Iran? That's why he's still backing Ukraine right now? That's why he's allowing Netanyahu to, again, continue to kill Gazans? Under this guise of a board of peace? I don't believe it. I really can't believe it. By the way, I knew from the start when he called the Department of Defense the Department of War, I said something has got to be escalating. Why would you call this the Department of War if you're not a wartime president? But that's exactly what he intends this to be. And he miscalculated because this isn't about defense. This is about war. And again, people get rich off of war. A lot of people that put him in office, by the way. There was I'll say it again, there was absolutely no reason for the United States to attack Iran over the weekend. There was no sign of intelligence that they were going to attack us in any way to threaten us or our sovereignty. Yet people now talking about things that happened 50 years ago almost. Oh, well, back in 1983, I think they helped, Hezbollah, didn't they? So you're going to attack them in 2026, you idiots? You're talking about something that happened during the Reagan administration? My goodness, my goodness. By the way, someone remind me, how many Iranians were we responsible, either ourselves or through proxy, that have died since 1980? You want to know the number? Because I know the number, because I do the research. Yeah, try 500,000 are dead as a result of our actions. Yeah, we gave chemical weapons to Saddam Hussein to use on the Iranian people, by the way. How do you think we would feel as Americans if, for example, Canada did this, or some country gave Canada the weaponry, the munitions, the backing to go to war with the United States, and they gave them chemical weapons to use on the American people? I think we'd be pretty pissed. I don't think you and I would forget about that, would we? I don't think we would think too fondly of this. Again, I call things as they are. Unbelievable. It really is. But this demonstrates to us that the diplomacy was never the intention, as I've been saying, and President Trump created such a misstep by doing this, because the regime change in the form of this decapitation strike that he was hoping for didn't happen. Did he really think that killing an 86-year-old man who was really close to death already, that was frail as can be, would topple an entire government? This is the problem with these idiots, these jerks that go on the mainstream news. Oh, this guy's the mobster, right? He's the head of it. Once this guy falls, this is great. Everything's going to topple. Guess what, guys? You said this on Saturday? All the geniuses on Fox News. And by the way, I like Fox News primarily. But I said to myself, they're completely wrong about this. Anyone that studies the region knows that Iran is a democracy. They have a constitution in place. Now, you might disagree with parts of it, but they have a constitution. They have people that are elected directly to several offices, including the president. They elect their parliament. They elect the assembly of experts. They elect various other people. City council, mayors. It's not just the Ayatollah that runs this government, like everyone believes. And everyone's like, well, he's gone, so therefore everything is great. He already had a successor waiting. The guy's 86, almost 87 years old. He knew this was going to happen too, by the way. And he accepted that he wasn't long for this world. And instead of negotiating with him, we martyred him. We enshrined his place in Iranian history as a religious martyr. And of course, the Shia faith. This is why President Trump is calling for Iranians now to take to the streets to take back the government, because that didn't happen either. And now they're screwed, because now they've really got to just start ramping up this war. That's what they're saying. Well, this is going to get much, much more intense. Yeah, no kidding. But now we've got military bases that are being hit. We're running out of ammunition, by the way. We're running out of these munitions because this was not well planned. We thought by Saturday, we bomb him a little bit, right? He would die. People would take to the streets. They topple a statue here and there. They take over a building, and then everyone's going to say, oh, we're done. But that didn't happen. And as a result of this, and I'm going to make this prediction, and I hate that I have to make this prediction, but it's the truth. We've already lost this war. And we're going to spend a lot of money bombing parts of Tehran. Certainly the way we're fighting it right now, this indicates that we're going to lose this war. But much of Tehran is evacuated by now. So what are you going to do? Blow up empty buildings? What's that going to accomplish? Absolutely nothing. And by the way, not to mention, we're on day 3 of this now. Obviously, it's later in the Middle East than it is here. This war campaign really isn't going as anticipated. You know how I know this? Because we've contacted a lightweight like Sir Keir Starmer, the all wonderful UK, and now they've even offered their support that we've requested to let us use British bases for defensive strikes on Iranian missile sites. That's what we're using them for now. By the way, they wanted to stay out of this war because they knew it was going to happen. But of course, they get dragged into it like every other thing. By the way, he went on to say the UK has learned lessons from the mistakes of Iraq. Oh, thank you. So we can let Tony Blair know this, by the way. And was not involved in initial strikes on Iran and will not join offensive action now. Does he not think that UK bases now are off the table if they're obviously being used to support and bolster what America's doing to them? I mean, he's an idiot if he thinks this. Get a load of this, by the way. This is on the BBC. Sir Keir Starmer said the basis of the decision to accept the United States request was to collect self-defense of allies and protecting British lives, accusing Iran of pursuing a scorched earth strategy. I have to laugh. This is so stupid. No, actually, they're not pursuing that. They were pursuing negotiations. They were pursuing talks. They said this last year they want to talk with us. They want to negotiate. But they were very much aware that, obviously, we were assembling a great fleet outside of the Persian Gulf that could prevent, obviously, their national security, the well-being of the country, this decapitation strike. They knew all this, and they prepared very well for this. So it's not Israel in America destroying them, taking them down, weakening their government. Their government is very much intact. And their ability to hit the targets they want are very much in line with what they want to do. So when I say scorched earth strategy, well, they said this. They said they were going to hit all the oil fields. They were going to hit all the oil refineries. They were going to hit every single U.S. military base. They said they would strike inside Israel as well. And they're making good on that promise, I have to say to you. But everything I'm looking at, that's what we're seeing right now. Trump temporarily said it may be necessary for the U.S. to use Fairford and Diego Garcia for operation should Iran decide not to make a deal. A deal? Your deal-making ways are over. Deal? Who the hell would make a deal with you? They're finished. They're done. Probably with Russia too, by the way. No one's going to trust you after this. Time and time again, you go say you make a deal. We put out an assassination attempt on Vladimir Putin. That's what the intel is coming back and showing us. That Americans programmed the drones that were given to Germany, that was given to Ukraine, to try to take out President Putin at his residency, one of his residencies. And it did fail, of course. But they figured this out. They know this. So how are we going to sit here and act like you're going to say that the Ayatollah was going to take out President Trump? Where's the evidence for that? There is no evidence. How are they going to hit him? What are they going to do? I mean, these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. Where was this evidence that this was going to happen? Nowhere. That I can tell. But Putin obviously knows what's going on there. Now he just saw them take out the head of state. They saw them take out the head of Venezuela. And they're going to make a deal with President Trump? No one's going to buy this. Because he's openly said, I don't need international law. So any treaty he signs, if he wants to follow it, he will. If he doesn't, he won't. Whatever he decides when he wakes up, just like the tariffs, which again were also illegal. You know, another good indicator that this war is really not going as planned, I guess I would tell you folks. We look at the Gulf Arab states now. They're running out of defense missiles already. We're on day 3. We see Israel's Iron Dome now is not intercepting the incoming Iranian missiles that are hitting their targets as planned. There's no sign that we're controlling Iranian airspace right now. And sadly enough, we saw a jet fighter in Kuwait getting shot down, mistakenly, one of our own. This is what's taking place right now. And by the way, only time will tell if China and Russia alike will choose to sit on the sidelines or really watch as this happens with Iran to their fellow BRICS member. I don't know if they would get involved. People I've been listening to and reading have been saying China tends not to want to get involved with military action that the United States is in. That's something that to consider, of course. But this is where we are right now, folks. And let's not forget, the oil refineries, the oil fields that I talked about, are all still on the table to be hit by Iran. I saw one Saudi Arabian oil refinery engulfed in flames yesterday, which again is going to devastate their economy because that's what they rely on. And on top of that, you've got the Strait of Hormuz now officially closed. As I told you, this would happen. I said this to you. I said this was going to take place. It's going to cause economic problems, particularly in the oil futures. And we've got to understand that this is where we are right now. This is where we are. You know, I'm looking at the stock markets right now. And yeah, right now they're not too bad. We're seeing European stocks, though, folks, fall sharply as the war in the Middle East is going right on. Look at the Asian markets. Same thing. A lot of them are down today. So I don't know how this will end for us. We're seeing U.S. stocks not too bad right now. NASDAQ's up right now. S&P 500 and Dow Jones are down just slightly, barely at all. But look at what we see when we look at, for example, these oil prices. Look at what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the price of oil in the United States going up very quickly. It says U.S. crude jumps more than 5%. Yep. As monitor markers are looking at the Iran war. Up 7.5%. Brent crude is up in one day with the market opening back up. WTI crude, $71.80 a barrel right now in one day. I'm told that the overall oil prices around the world are now up 22% in one day. It's going to be a hell of a legacy, Trump writes, for the second term, folks. I got to tell you. But look at this article on CNBC. It says $100 oil, prolonged Hormuz closure could spark 1970s-style energy shock. Now, I wasn't born in the 70s. I was born in the mid-1980s. So, I don't remember any of this, of course, but I can tell you it wasn't a good time, folks. Anyone think I've looked up for this? This is where we are now as a country. Are we going to look at oil shortages now throughout the world? It says oil markets are now bracing for a possible supply shock after U.S. strikes on Iran over the weekend reignited fears that flows through the Strait of Hormuz could be disrupted. Well, no kidding. They've shut it down. So you're getting no oil out of that region. And if you're close by to that region, you risk getting hit as well. This is what we're seeing right now. And as I just told you, those stocks, those futures are up right now. With tensions escalating and the attention is shifted back to the Strait of Hormuz, where any disruption could have this immediate and outsized consequences for global oil and LNG flows. Yep, this is what's taking place right now. And you're going to see that oil continue to go up, folks. And it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good at all. It's going to start skyrocketing. And if it gets to $100, $120, $130 a barrel, you're going to see the price of oil in the United States. Despite that, we are the biggest producer of oil in this country every single day. You're going to see the price of oil skyrocket. This is going to be a major, major problem. So, and again, we look at, I have an article here for you in Zero Hedge. European gas prices soar 50% after Qatar shuts down world's largest LNG export plant. Well, they have to. It's a risk of getting hit. No one's going to go to work and do that. What, are you kidding me? You can't make this stuff up. How is it that the Trump administration couldn't figure this out? But I was telling you this really since January. I was telling you this, that if we decide to go through with this war, this is what you're going to see. You're going to devastate the global economy. You're going to shut down 20 to 25% of the global oil supply. You don't think that's going to have any ramifications? I'm getting tired of this crap. But this is where we are right now because of this stupidity coming out of the White House to follow Netanyahu's lead, who really is running the foreign policy, at least in the Middle East. You can't make this stuff up, folks. So we'll have to keep an eye on how these gas prices go, folks. But if I were you, I would gas up sooner rather than later, should you need to. And I would especially make sure you're getting any supplies that you're very much dependent on right now. If there's any medicines that come from abroad, if you're getting anything, any imports that you know that you buy, I would get them now. I would stock up on them just a little bit. And I would make sure you have storages of food, water, anything you need to be self-sufficient. I always tell you that, folks. Always be ready. Because if you go to the stores and they start getting empty again, like what we saw under the dunce Joe Biden, it's going to get really, really bad really, really fast. So stock up on anything you need. I'm just going to tell it to you as is. And by the way, we're seeing out of Reuters, the Iran conflict disrupts global shipping now as tankers are stranded and or damaged. Look at this. So shipping through the strait between Iran and Oman, which carry roughly 1/5 of the oil supply, as well as large quantities of gas, has ground to a near halt after vessels in the area were hit as Iran retaliated to U.S. and Israeli strikes. At least 150 vessels now, including oil and liquefied natural gas tankers, have dropped their anchors in the Strait of Hormuz and surrounding waters, shipping data showed on Sunday. No one's going to go through that. You'd be crazy to do this. So this is really going to have an effect on the oil prices, folks. You're going to start seeing that very, very soon. Let's move on to some other articles. We got about 10 minutes left in the broadcast today. So out of Breitbart says Senate Majority Leader John Thune refuses to use the talking filibuster now to pass this Save America Act. We better pass something because we're not going to have much time given the results we'll probably be seeing in these midterm elections. Why would John Thune not use this? Why not use the talking filibuster? Why not get people on the floor to talk about this? This is something that is across party lines that people want in this country. Over 83% of Americans want this to pass. Why not put it to a floor vote? It already passed in the House. But now he's saying that it'd be very, very hard to get this passed. Come on. Get something. This is something we could use. This is something that's at least beneficial for everybody. And we should have integrity in our elections, whether anybody likes it or not. Even after President Trump directly called on him to enact this filibuster, to get this bill rolling, he goes out and says that he's resisting to do it now. When asked by reporters on Thursday if he was going to actually use the talking filibuster to make the Senate Democrats debate on the floor whether voter ID is something that should be used, obviously we need this 60-vote cloture, and to pass it, Thune said if we're going to go down that path, it's very hard to pivot and to get back to open up the government. Who cares? If we don't have free and fair elections, we don't have a country. This is something that ensures at least there's a little bit more of safeguards inside our voting process. We need this. We should want this. This is how we secure our elections, not destroy them. Not allow for this rampant voter fraud we see in several blue states. They don't even require you to have an ID when you go vote. But of course for everything else. So I don't know what's going on with John Thune. Again, another person that doesn't do their job. Get the Democrats on the House floor. At least you can use that when you're running for office again, for God's sakes. These people are defying what you actually want to secure your vote. This is your birthright right here. And you're given nothing, folks. Illegal aliens are allowed to vote in these elections. And the Democrats know this, and by the way, the Republicans know this as well. This should be his number one top priority right now. Let Chuck Schumer shut down the government if he's not going to do this. I mean, this is ridiculous. It really is. I don't understand these Republicans. We have a majority right now. You can't get 7 Democrats to vote for this. I'm sure you can get a John Fetterman, people like that. Reach across the aisle, get the 7 votes, pass the bill, save the country, for God's sakes. I really don't understand this, folks. I really can't figure this. And by the way, this is why elections matter. This is why election integrity matters. And we should be very much for this because this is the way the process should be. The fact that it's not gives way to, obviously, lots and lots of voter fraud in this country. I don't think anybody can deny that at this point. Let's clean the voter rolls. Let's make sure you have a valid ID when you go vote. Let's get this passed. Let's make sure we protect our elections. I don't think that's unnecessary, folks. I really don't. Oh, by the way, Bill Clinton, yep, he spoke on Friday. He was not very happy about it, too. This is on the New York Post. Bill Clinton fumes over Hillary being forced to testify in Epstein probe. Look at that. He was not happy at all. She had nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Nothing, is what old Billy said in his video post. So whether 10 people or 10,000 people were subpoenaed, including her, was simply not right, is what old Bill said, whose old pal Jeffrey, a Mossad agent, was obviously doing illegal things. And he says, I saw nothing and I did nothing wrong. Well, can we really listen to Bill Clinton and really think to ourselves, hey, this guy's telling me the truth? Does anyone honestly believe that Bill Clinton would go in front of Congress and then simply say that he did nothing wrong? Didn't he do this once before, folks? Like back in, 1998?
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, he went back to work for the American people, all right. Yep. But what did he end up doing? Well, I did end up having sexual relations with that woman. This is a guy who, what did he spend, $800,000 to give to women that he sexually assaulted over his life? Are we to imagine that he was hanging out, he himself, obviously a sexual abuser, with a guy who was also sexually abusing women and prostituting women more than likely? And he saw nothing wrong? Yet I'm looking on this New York Post article, and he's got a woman on his lap. It's amazing. So what are we to make of this? I mean, Ghislaine Maxwell came to his daughter's wedding, and yet she never met and knew anything about Jeffrey Epstein? Who buys this, folks? I told you before, this whole thing was stupid in general. There was no way Bill Clinton or Hillary Clinton were going to come out and say all the things that Jeffrey Epstein was doing. There was no way in hell that this would happen. And sure enough, they got nothing out of him. He gave you the same old runaround that he always does. Again, this is who these people are. They never admit to anything wrong until, of course, they're caught. So Bill didn't do anything, Hillary didn't do anything, but yet they were fraternizing with this guy and Ghislaine constantly. Yep, so there you go. There you go. Nope, he had no idea Jeffrey was committing these crimes, folks. Didn't you know that? Yeah, hung out with him, on the plane, on the island, going all over the place with them. Had no idea that he was doing any of these things. No, this is a shock. And the woman he's with in the picture in the hot tub, hey, he did not have sexual relations with that woman either. Did not know. Just no, nothing. Nothing on the order took place. They're just hanging out, right? Just, hanging out. That's all. Ugh, these people get away with everything. Anyways, let's move on, folks. Let's move on. I want to get through as much as I can today. Out of the Associated Press, we got to talk about the FBI's investigation now on the Texas bar shooting that killed 2 people and wounded 14 in the possible terrorist attack. This is awful to see this take place in Austin. Very nice city, by the way. I just wouldn't go in July, where it's about 108 degrees every single day there. Very nice city, though. Growing city. Great people. Great food, by the way. Really nice atmosphere, too, inside Austin. It's a really cool place. But we have this gunman now who is wearing clothes with the Iranian flag design on it, which I find amazing. Right at the time we go into this war over the weekend, a lunatic pops up with a shirt that says "Property of Allah," killing 2 people, wounding 14 more on Sunday inside a Texas bar. Now, the gunman, who was a Senegal man, was killed as well. But this is interesting to me because why would a 53, I can't even say his name. I don't even want to say his name. I don't even care about him. How was this guy able to come into the country, by the way? When the hell did he get here? That's what I want to know. Now, it says here he was from Senegal, came to the United States, and was naturalized in the United States. Yet somehow he goes on this kill-crazy rampage. Authorities say they can't provide a clear motive for the attacks, but found indicators on the gunman and his vehicle leading them to look into the possibility of terrorism. It says here that he first entered the United States in 2000 on a B-2 tourist visa and became a lawful permanent resident 6 years later. After marrying a U.S. citizen. That's how they come in. Became naturalized as a U.S. citizen in 2013. Originally from Senegal, West Africa. There we go. Unbelievable, folks. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Why do we continue to bring in people from the third world who do not want to assimilate in this country. I don't understand this. I really don't understand this anymore. I told you before, there should be a 100-year moratorium on immigration in this country. Secure the damn border, and shouldn't the Trump administration be more engrossed in fixing the problems in our country, like people like this who are insane that have come to this country? Don't you think it's time we took care of our own country, fixed our own immigration problems, secured our own border? You now have to put $100 billion into fixing our military bases abroad. Put the money on the northern and the southern border. Make sure our ports, make sure our seas are not tampered with illegal aliens that show up constantly. That way you have no drug flow coming in the country, right? That way you don't have to go abduct world leaders and accuse them of sending drugs to the country because you've secured your border. Wouldn't that be a much better use of time? Fixing America's problems, not doing things for the state of Israel? Just a thought, folks. Just a thought. All right, one more article. We'll go through this. I'll extend my time today. It won't take a little while. This is out of Slay News. It says Supreme Court hears case on banning marijuana users from legally owning guns. Now, I find this interesting for many different levels because in today's society, we're so pushed towards the use of cannabis, marijuana, if you will. But now they want to use, again, they push kids into this. They push people in this. Use this. It's great for you. It's totally fine to use, even though I've told you before. It's not totally fine, and it's not good for you to just sit around and puff marijuana every single day. But now the Supreme Court will now hear today that a case to determine whether millions of Americans who use marijuana are automatically stripped of their Second Amendment rights. This is what they want to push us through. Legalize a drug. That's what they did, right? They did it in California. They did it in Arizona. George Soros actually put the money in for a lot of these propositions. Get people on this, get the shops opened, you name it, and then they decide, hey, if you're using marijuana, you should be able to purchase a firearm. Your Second Amendment is null and void now. This is who these people are. This is their plan, folks. Get kids on dope, right? They use it in the entertainment industry, right? Look how cool these rappers are. Look how cool they are. And now you don't have a Second Amendment right. It's amazing. The conservative-leaning U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit rejected the government's case, ruling that the historical firearms regulations only support disarming individuals who are actively intoxicated while armed, not those who merely use marijuana other times. This is going to be the precipice to push this, though, folks. Folks, have a great rest of your day. Share the show. I appreciate you so much. I'll see you back here tomorrow for more groundbreaking news on the next Mark Andre Show. Till then, be good. God bless.